you so much. Okay, so let's start with government policies and rules and regulations. Remember, every time government implements policies, it takes us away from the open market and we go towards a little bit more towards regulated market. So all of these policies in this chapter, they're policies that governments implement. That's what we say, government policy and international trade. So all of these policies that we're gonna put in here, that actually takes us towards more regulated policies. Now, the most common ones, again, these are all governments who get involved, implement these policies. Now, let's start with the case study. This case study of America's Inflation Reduction Act and electric vehicle subsidies. Well, first of all, what is subsidies? Government financial assistance, that's subsidies. So government wants to assist basically electric vehicle industry here in this case, passed into law in August 2022. Remember, if you would buy an electric car based on this law that passed, you could get up to $7,500 of tax return. Now we're actually not, we have eliminated this law. We're not practicing this law anymore. It's not been implemented since summer 2025 because the new administration took over. So they're not practicing this law anymore. This is an old one. So you're not getting any $7,500 if you buy an electric car. Subsidy, it's like government was encouraging to buy electric cars to eliminate basically fossil fuel, for example, footprint. Now, so what is free trade? We did talk about it with no regulations. That means free trade. That means based on supply and demand of the market. Government doesn't implement any policies, no government intervention. It's only based on supply and demand in the market. But we did talk about it. In today's market, it's almost impossible. We don't do that. There are a couple of countries that do have free trade policies, such as, for example, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, Switzerland. They have the least free trade policies. It's not like 100%, but the least ones around the world. And then Hong Kong and some free trade zones around the world. Now, let's start with government policies. Number one, tariff. The most common government policy, government intervention into international trade is implementing tariff. What is tariff? Anybody knows what is tariff?
Tax.
Very good. Taxes levied, imposed on imported products. Okay? So, let's say I am Ford, right? The company Ford. And Toyota is bringing a lot of, they're bringing because what is Toyota famous for? Affordability and reliability, right? So I have to compete with this good affordability and reliable car. It's very difficult for me to compete with them. Now, my government, United States government, imposes tariff, which means taxes for imported product for Toyota. Now, any Toyota coming to United States, they have to pay money, they have to pay taxes. And price of Toyota is increasing when they're landing in the market, in the dealership for you and I. Now Toyota price is higher because they have to make up for their cost, right? So you and I, as just a American consumer, mid-income families of American consumers, now what is our best choice and option? Ford now. Before the tariff, we would think about it. Some might like Toyota, some might like Ford, right? Now, after tariff, a lot of people will shift towards Ford, mid-income families, right? That's exactly the reason to implement tariffs. That's number one reason. We have two types of tariffs. One is fixed tariff, one is ad valorem. Fixed means, in our example, one thing. At this time, Toyota has manufacturing facilities, plants in the United States, and this example I'm saying, I'm just giving it's hypothetical. Toyota doesn't have any tariff because it's made here. But let's say hypothetically, following our example, Toyota example, The fixed rate says any Toyota coming to United States, I'm gonna charge $5,000. Doesn't matter, Toyota value could be $100,000, Toyota value could be $10,000. I'm charging each Toyota, because it's a fixed rate, $5,000. Ad valorem is actually based on the value of the car, 5%, 10%, 20%, 100%. Based on the value of the car, you're paying each unit, bring in the United States, the importer, they have to pay taxes. So this is two types. Sometimes you would see combo as well. I'm gonna charge 5,000 plus 10%. You might see that one as well. There are always two entities that benefit from tariff and two entities that do not benefit from tariffs imposed. Can you guys guess which two entities benefit from it? First, go back to my example, Toyota. Which two entities benefit from the United States government imposing tariff on Toyota?
Ford.
Very good. Ford, which we call it domestic producers. Okay. Second one?
The government.
Very good. The government of the United States, because they're the ones collecting taxes. Okay. The two other entities that do not benefit are
Consumers?
very good consumers, because remember in our example we have less choices now. So consumers, we don't benefit from it. And exactly, the foreign company, the importer. The foreign company doesn't benefit either because we're not gonna buy their products at the end. So these are the two entities that benefit and two entities that do not benefit from it. Now, the next example, so the most common way of government intervention in international trade is tariff. We know that right now, remember the first administration of Trump, we started the trade war. Have you guys heard trade war with China? The first time in the first administration we started it, and we're still continuing with that. Usually, visas, tourism visa, and international trade, they are based on reciprocity. Whatever this country does, they will immediately reciprocate. For example, we put tariff, they will put immediately tariff as well. We put visa for them, they will put visa for us as well. Just like what happened with Europe. Remember the first Trump administration, we put visa requests for European Union coming to United States. Then after that, they required us to have visa to go to Europe as well. Let me give you another example. In 1930s, I think we did talk about it, the chicken tariff, right? In 1930s, Germany, they imposed tariff on imported American chicken products. 1930s is Hitler's time, and it's Great Depression in the United States. And it's between World War I and World War II. So governments are practicing high protectionism policies, which means high tariff, because I'm protecting my local domestic producers. So at that time, the German government imposed very high tariff on imported American chicken products. So what happens to our chicken products, German people are not, consumer market, are not gonna buy our chicken products, right? It goes bad, it goes to waste. Our chicken producers here were not happy about it. United States government was not happy about it. So we immediately reciprocated because of, as a result of this tariff. What we did was that we imposed tariff on their light trucks, which is today we call them SUV. At that time we called them light trucks. We imposed high tariff on light trucks. Then after World War II, we're allies, they removed their tariff restrictions for chicken products. We still have not removed the tariff that we imposed in 1930s. And that's why the SUV in the United States is higher than, price is higher than the European Union. SUV here is much higher than Europe. So that's basically another example of reciprocation based on tariff and visa. Now, very rare example is Mexico. We require visa from them, they don't require visa from us. But in general, that's how it will work. The second one, quota. Quota means limited quantity imposed on products, okay? Let's go back to our example of Toyota. United States government can say, okay, I'm not going to charge any tariff on imported Toyota. you can actually bring Toyota with no taxes, no tariffs imposed on them. First 1 million, let's put it this way. First 100,000 units are for free without any taxes, right? They can either do stop at 100,000 units, we're not taking any more in the country anymore, or they can put after 100,000 you can pay me 100%. If you really wanted to bring it, I just collect taxes from you. So it's up to the government if they want to do it. Now, how do they come up with 100,000, for example, hypothetically? So this is what they do. Let's say they forecast next year we have 1 million potential customers that they want to buy this type of cars, mid-average, reliable, affordable cars. Ford has capacity to produce 900,000. So we're missing 100,000. In order to be fair to my own customers, I will have Toyota bring it with no taxes. But after that my domestic, basically consumers' needs has been met, then I'm going to charge very high taxes, or I can just stop it, saying I don't want to bring any more to the country. So that's quota, basically. Quantity restrictions. We can actually impose quantity restrictions. Many times we can say, we can do hybrid. We can charge them taxes, as I said. So I'm gonna charge quota, limited, or after that, I'm gonna charge. That would be hybrid. The second example I gave you guys is a hybrid example. The next one, administrative policies. Administrative policies, Japan is a master of administrative policies. France is practicing right now too about dairy products. But Japan in the past, because remember, Netherlands is the world's largest tulip producers of the world, like the flower tulip. And they send it almost everywhere around the world. They have one of the best ones. Japan has its own productions too, but it's very expensive. You have to understand, Japan is a small island, right? So have you been to Hawaii before, how everything is expensive? A gallon of milk might be like $12. It's because it's island. Everything is expensive. So that's how Japan is. Everything is very expensive over there. So the tulip production, they do have tulip productions, but it's very expensive and costly. What they do, they just impose administrative policies. They just come up with very creative ideas. What they did, they passed a law that every basically boxes that come in, we have to, with a small object, we have to poke inside it to see what is inside it, just for security purposes, whatever they said, whatever they came up with, right? So when they do that, when it's flower in it, by the time it lands in the market, it's already dead, the flower, because it's flowers, it's very sensitive, especially tulip flowers, right? That's how they did it. They said, oops, it was a policy and nobody was buying it anymore. So they could sell their own Japanese tulip flowers. The exporter from Netherlands, they said after that, we will still send our tulips, beautiful tulips, so all around the world except Japan, because of the experience we have with Japanese. So administrative policy is basically a creative, made-up thing, which you're not saying, putting really tariff policies or quota, but you're just coming up with your own creative way to limit the exportation of the competitors, to again protect domestic producers. Subsidies are government support for local productions. A very good example of subsidies are in 1980s, Boeing and Airbus. You know, still Boeing and Airbus, we do have a lot of other aircraft manufacturing companies around the world right now, but those days, the two major was only Airbus and Boeing, and still is the two major ones. So they're going head to head. What happened, Airbus was a joint venture of private sector, but also British government and French government as well, the investors, and then Boeing was a private American company. What happened, they gave a lot of subsidies, very good subsidies to Airbus in 1980s, the British government and French government, which makes it, when you give a huge assistance, financial assistance to the company with either zero interest rate or very low interest rate, see how much it can help the company when it's zero interest rate or very low interest rate with a very long-term repayment back, right? So Airbus was getting ahead. Boeing didn't like it. Boeing approaches White House and asks them, you need to give us subsidy as well, offer a subsidy, because otherwise we cannot compete with Airbus. United States government says, I'm not going to do that because this is based on free market, and this is our policy, this capitalism, and their policy as well, UK and France as well. But what I can do, I can put pressure on them to basically withdraw from these subsidies. And that's exactly what they did. So United States government put pressure on them. Finally, they withdrew from that deal and they did not offer subsidies. So these two companies can compete based on free market price, not based on subsidies. The next one is voluntary export restraint. So they're actually restraining their own export voluntarily. Remember, export is always good for any economy, for countries, right? And export is encouraged by countries. Why would a government voluntarily restrain their own export? There are some certain reasons. One example, like in 1970s, one example was that Toyota, well, you have to understand, in 1970s, American companies had difficult time competing with, again, high quality, affordable Japanese products. Toshiba, Sony, Komatsu, you can call it like all kinds of brands, different brands. They were dumping Toyota in US market, and we had difficulty competing with them, right? One of those examples is Toyota versus Ford. And so because we're allies, United States government asked Japanese government have voluntarily export restraint on Toyota and stop him for some period of time. Don't bring him here. We don't want to put high tariff on it. We're allies, but just you need to stop sending it out. And that's what they did. That's why later on they opened a facility in the United States, because they didn't want to go through the same thing again, or tariff, or be faced with high tariff. A current example right now also is sometimes countries, they impose voluntary export restraint to make sure that their own domestic, basically consumers, have enough of the product. For example, Russia is doing that right now on grains, rice grains, wheat grains. Russia is doing that right now on grains because they want to make sure that all grain producers are consumed at home, because they're under huge sanction, remember. So if they don't, they're not going to be able to bring it from outside. They need to feed their own troops first, and their own people first. Sometimes countries do it because they need to feed their own people, but other times it's because of international politics. The next one is local content requirements. Countries can basically ask that, you know what, I'm not going to impose tariff, I'm not going to impose quotas, you can just bring your products here. However, you have to buy the components for your products from me, only from me. For example, let's go back to our example. Let's say hypothetically we didn't have automobile manufacturing facility in the United States. We didn't have the capabilities of, right? So we're bringing Toyota in because we cannot compete with them. Let's say hypothetically we're bringing Toyota, but we have very good tire production here in the United States. So we say, okay, Toyota, I'm not going to charge any tariffs, but all the tires must be from the United States, purchased from the United States for all the car units. So that's the local content requirements that we do. And this one, these are all mostly politically motivated. This one is economically motivated. The protection of infant industry. Infant industry is that your industry is infant, is a baby industry. And a baby cannot compete with the adult industry because you're infant. In between 50s and 70s until 80s, in India, that's what they did. They wanted to start automobile production facilities because they wanted to start it in 1950s. It was a baby, it's infant. And automobile production in the United States was already advanced in 1950s, 60s, 70s to 80s. So what they had to do, and in Japan too, and in Germany too. So what they had to do, they had to put infant protection industry because they wanted to make sure their baby industry is protected. So what they say, they actually announce it. They're like, I'm starting this. It's just the first time I'm starting. I just got the capacity and capability to start this, getting into this new industry, and I'm going to restrict it. No cars, foreign cars will come to my country at all because this is my trial and error time. For many, many years, I have to do that until I have the capability to compete with foreign cars. I was at a port meeting years ago. The governor at that time was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we had dignitaries from China and India coming in. So one of the questions was that when they were talking about this, one of the questions from audience was that when do you know that the industry is now it's mature, right? To basically open up and remove this policy. And the answer of the Indian official was that we actually did have that situation when we received a lot of proposals from foreign companies to become our major investors. We knew that they were doing a good job. So we knew that we have been matured. That's why we started opening up. So these are the examples, and then dumping and anti-dumping. Have you noticed in United States, we do have within a lot of regulations that we have, right? We just said that countries have many different regulations. We don't have price ceiling, but we do have price floor. Many countries don't have price floors, neither price ceilings. Many countries do have price floor and price ceilings, meaning implemented by governments, required by governments. You can, for example, the ones that have price floor, price ceiling, you can sell, hypothetically, this desk between $50 to $500. You cannot go above $500, for example. The ones that have neither, so it's more open. In United States, we have a price floor. We don't have price ceiling. Price floor basically means you cannot go below the cost of production because it's capitalism and we encourage competition. Let's say you inherit a couple $1 million from your parents, right? Parents, grandparents. Because of that, because you have a lot of money, you can go below the cost of production, kill all the competitors, and then you're the only one in the market, you can increase your prices 10 times more, right? Because of that, government doesn't allow you to go below the cost of production. It has to be above the cost of production. Now, so when this product is dumped from another country, imported from another country, we call it dumping. Here we call it price floor, but when it's dumped from another country to here, imported, we call it dumping. Let's say in United States, this desk, I cannot produce it less than $10 per unit, right? I have tried my best, not less than $10. In China, this is being produced $5. A Chinese exporter, or they import to the United States, they can bring it here, sell it for $8. So they make $3 profit per unit, and I cannot even compete with them because it's $2 less than what I can produce here in the United States. That is called dumping because they're dumping into my market and there's no way I can compete with them. So the law that we have implemented is anti-dumping policies. Anti-dumping policies is per United States government policies. You cannot sell a product, you cannot basically dump it, like import a product and sell it below the cost of production. There is a problem. I was attending one of the International Trade Administration webinars, and there's no problem with it. So people are asking, then how come we have so many Chinese products that are sold below the cost of production in the United States? The answer was that if you have a very strong union, as steel companies did have, we have actually a video, we're gonna watch it. Steel companies, the industry they had a strong union, and as you will see in the video, the gentleman says, steel industry is loud. That means we have a very good lobby at the Congress. Because of that, they could implement these policies, and they put a very high tariff on Chinese products, and American steel industry started picking up back again. But if your industry is not very big or loud, doesn't have lobby or anything, for example, textile industry, they couldn't do anything. And the answer of the trade representative office was that we don't have enough manpower to go door to door to see who is selling what, for what price, and if it's below the cost of production in the United States. We have to have individual, basically cases. You can complain, individual cases will follow up the cases. The other thing is that when they take you to trial, you have to be able to prove that there is no way anywhere in the United States soil, 50 states, that you could produce at that price. So go search to the lowest, I don't know, in deep South Mississippi or whatever. You still have to prove it, that there was no way you could produce this cost. So the burden of proof is on the shoulder of the American company. That's why it makes it very difficult. That's what we still see in industries that are not very strong, like the steel industry. We still see a lot of products sold below the cost of production here. So that's called dumping and anti-dumping. Now let's see, do you guys remember the general agreements on tariffs and trade? Or should I go over that one more time? It is one of the international organizations that was formed in 1947 under Bretton Woods Agreement. Remember, after World War II, Bretton Woods Agreement, 1945, we had World Bank, IMF, United Nations, and in 1947 we added this one under Bretton Woods Agreement. It worked, their job was to encourage countries, member states, reduce tariffs and quotas, reduce basically trade restrictions, open the market, work with each other, and invest in each other's market. Buy properties, buy companies in each other's market. The whole idea was, because it was after World War II, the whole idea was to make sure we reduce the chances of military intervention. That was the idea behind it at that time. It did a good job, but it needed a reform, which the reform happened in 1995, which was transformed into World Trade Organization. So we don't have general agreement on tariffs and trade anymore. The new name is World Trade Organization, and World Trade Organization has done a very good job. We had world average tariff in 1960s was 46%. Today is less than 3%, 299. So that's why they have done a very good job. Let me see if I have said all of them. Yes. Let's see if I have missed anything. No, I think we haven't. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. So this is actually Smoot-Hawley Act in 1930s. This is the act that Smoot and Hawley, there were two congressmen in 1930s, that they passed this law to make sure American producers are protected. So they put a very high tariff on imported products based on protectionism policies, which means just to help, something like this that we said, just to help the local producers. And it's called Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930s. We talked about all of these later in the past, and yes. That was the most important part of, can you stop that for me, please? Sorry. Thank you so much.